All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. We have a special guest today, Ike Rodriguez, a fellow true sidereal, true sky astrologer. What do you call yourself, Ike? Do you go by the standard true sidereal?
Sidereal astrologist. Captain Ike sometimes, because I live on a boat.
Yeah, that's the boat. So you're parked off of the coast of Miami, is that right?
Yeah. I'm in the bays of Miami here, so
that's awesome.
It's been sweet. I got nature, and then I got city, vibrant life.
So when you need the stars, you can just float out.
Yeah, just go right out to Biscayne Bay, and you have like a national park right there. It's like within 1 hour.
Oh, on the land, yeah. But I mean, by boat, you can just.
Oh no, by boat, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I go to Biscayne Bay. Out there in the Keys. Like it takes me an hour just to get to the bay, and
I see.
I'm there.
Oh, very cool.
Sweet.
So you have your telescope over there on the boat? What is it, hard mounted to the top?
No, because it moves too much. You need to be stable with the telescope. So
yeah,
I'm sort of going through withdrawals on that.
So you don't bring it with you? You don't bring the telescope?
No.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But I have binoculars, so I look at the Pleiades a lot. I mean, I would encourage everyone who's watching now that people don't realize that they can just take binoculars and look. You can see Orion's nebula under the Orion's belt. You can see that nebula with binoculars and the Pleiades. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I've never seen that with the binoculars.
Yeah.
I should do that. Create a kind of astrology as you go thing. No matter where you go, you can always pull out the binoculars. Yeah. Well, it's great to see you again, man. So things have been good. I know you said you just got back from Europe. And by the way, how's our audio, everybody? Does everything look good and sound good? I'll trust someone to tell me, Margaret, maybe tell me if the audio or the video is ever bad. But yeah, so what you been up to? It's been a few months since we last spoke.
Code 12, the movie that I was in, where I'm the 13 sign sidereal astrologer, and I found the some hidden evidence in the Temple of Dendera that people just miss. It was the black square.
Yeah, we were talking about that last time.
Yeah. So people still miss it. People still can't even. I watch people's videos of their walkthroughs of the temple, and they miss that square.
Also, professionals are missing the stuff. Not talking.
Yeah,
about
they're missing it. Yeah. And but Europe has been really welcoming. You know, their arms are open. My girlfriend lives in the Netherlands, and whenever I come in, she says, Captain Ike's coming to town. The calendar gets booked up, and they all want to know about the 13th sign.
Yeah.
And then in Germany, it got picked up. Code 12 got picked up by a company that organizes festivals, and they do translations and movies. And they picked up Code 12, and they did an online summit for Code 12, which was great. Then they did. Now they're doing in-person summit for a festival for Code 12.
So for those
coming to Germany.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Code 12 is a documentary. It's on Amazon. Margaret, if you could add a link to it, if you just go to Amazon and type in Code 12, it should come up. But this is a documentary where Ike was invited to talk about true sidereal, and it's a mainstream documentary. It was produced by one of the producers of Gaia TV. Former Gaia TV owners, I think, right?
She was like the director of content, Melissa Tittle. So
so mainstream, and this is, I think, the first, aside from like the occasional Neil deGrasse Tyson saying that astrology is BS because it doesn't use the actual sky, which is awesome and is very true. Aside from that, I would say this is probably the only real true sidereal injection into the mainstream, as far as I know. There's nothing more than that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty impressed at the people in the film. You got Greg Braden, Nassim Harriman, Robert Edward Grant, all these kind of guys that are moving around in the awareness scene. And then here I am, my scene in the movie. I'm the dude in the desert wandering to find this person. Yeah, we did a little acting in the movie. So
yeah, it was very cool. I like how she tied in a story into the teaching, so it wasn't just a dry documentary. It was actually an interesting story as well. Did you get to meet some of those people that were there?
No.
Because it's different filming dates, right?
Yeah, different filming dates, but the producer has a pretty cool concept. She wants to keep everything authentic. So she keeps everyone, how she framed it is, I want to keep everyone in their own silos doing their own work.
Oh, okay.
Because she's talking to all of us and realizing all these people are saying the same thing with different ways of arriving to the same point. So I want to keep them separate because that's how it's going to come in pure. No one's going to be trying to kind of piggyback anyone. So that's how it's been.
Okay.
So yeah, we don't see.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Otherwise, you get a bunch of bias. And I'll tell you, just talking to someone, you start adopting the same words and same language, and it just sounds like you're kind of repeating the same thing, even though it's a different thought. Well, that's really cool. So it blew up in Europe. So it did fairly well in the U.S. I think it's been out for what, about a year and a half now? Has it been?
I think a year and a half. Yeah, yeah, about a year and a half. Yeah, it hit hard in America, but America, man, we have so much. Like, I don't know, Europe seems, they pay attention. They're welcoming. They're like, come, sit down, talk to us. Let's make an event. In America, it's like, what's next
there's
on
a
the
million.
iPhone?
Yeah, and there's like a dime a dozen. I mean, how many documentaries are there published every day? I think in the States, right?
Yeah.
But they're open to the true sidereal. It sounds like, right? So that's something that is just now seems like coming into the collective consciousness of Europe, or at least Europe is becoming more aware of this, huh? Because I've noticed, like you asked me before our call, I've noticed more readings and people and questions just from people in Europe in general. And I thought it's because I'm in Europe right now, and I thought maybe it's just energetic, maybe because I'm over here. I'm energetically kind of in that same frequency, and I'm attracting more Europeans. But after talking to you, you're saying that you're noticing the same thing, huh? Just way more interest in Europe.
Yeah. And it gets even more interesting, which is why after the Code 12 conference, with my girlfriend and I, we're going to travel through the cathedrals of Europe, the Notre Dame of Paris, of France. Because they actually align, they're a mirror of the Virgo constellation.
So what is that exactly? So you mean like they have almost like Stonehenge, like something that replicates the Virgo on the ground?
Well, all the Notre Dame cathedrals, like Chartres, the one Notre Dame in Paris, Reims. Are we sharing screen? I'll show you an image.
I can give you permission. Yeah.
Let me
All right, you should be able to.
I can share here. Hang on a second.
I've never heard of that connection between.
Yeah. It's interesting because what I noticed. Yeah, I'll show it to you here. So that image here. Let's see when it shows up. If you see it. So this is the Virgo constellation, and you overlay it on top of France, and it lines up with the cathedrals, the Virgo ones, the Notre Dames. There's multiple cathedrals that are called Notre Dame, which is Our Lady, which Our Lady is Mother Mary, which Mother Mary is Virgo. And
so that's the head of Virgo on the right. So that's exactly how we see it in the ecliptic, right?
In the sky.
So Leo would be over there in, like, I don't know, Germany or something. According to this. Okay. Yeah.
And you can see in the article that I found, because I was interested in this, he says definitely on the ecliptic, you can see the red dots and the green dots. They're like precise. Look at Chartres and Spica. Reims. And these, I forget, I don't know what star that is, but it's like right on. A few of them you can make a case they're off. In the article, he says, sometimes they couldn't build it because of towns or whatever, but they made sure the ones on the ecliptic, which of course is where the sun passes over and charges them up, there's exactly on point. And then he makes another case where the story goes like in the older times before Ptolemy recreated the zodiac again, Virgo was seen as standing. And she's also Mother Mary, right? So she's the primordial mother. And you can see Chartres, Spica, is right at her birthing center. So where her portal is of birthing the divine child. So, and the divine child is actually, this is what's interesting is, I'll stop sharing now so we can have full screen. The divine child, if you follow the story of Virgo and then the divine child, that's the Christos, that's the Jesus story.
Yeah, the Mother Mary association with Virgo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got Pisces that is opposite Virgo, where Pisces represents Christ energy.
Exactly, yeah. So what I found was that everyone in Europe was excited about the 13th sign. You know, like, tell me where the 13th sign is in my chart. What do I have there? I started noticing that, wait a second. And this was before, like, this kind of woke me up to the Virgo alignments, but I kind of knew about them already from years ago. But I noticed that everyone had Virgo rising or Sun Virgo or Mars in Virgo, something strong in Virgo. And reading after reading, you know, I'm like, there's a Virgo energy here. What's going on? And then this is where the story comes in, because the 13th sign, if you look at the Gnostic texts, you know, Gnosticism, they have it's in the Galactic Center. It's their place of divinity, where they say Christos and Sophia come from, which is supposed to be Christ and the divine feminine. They come from this place called the Pleroma. Now, the Pleroma is in the Galactic Center. So the story is that Christos and Sophia come to Earth to give us their gifts, and they're known as a frequency energy. You know, and they paint the picture when you're reading it like Christos and Sophia fly off to Earth. But we all know that it's to be born on Earth in a physical body, you have to come through a woman. That woman is the Virgo, which is why she's known as a virgin. Because there's a process that I just discovered this name as I was researching this. It's called parthenogenesis. It's birthing without having to have a male partner. So literally a divine conception. Right? Like a divine birth.
Immaculate birth, yeah.
So this is, and as you're reading about parthenogenesis, it's literally, you see it a lot when you read about the Essenes. They say there was a lineage of high priestess women that practiced parthenogenesis, and they were bred, or they were training to do parthenogenesis to bring in divine children. Wow. And they were called the Marys. So really? It's like the Marys.
Sorry, when was this? Where was this?
If you look up the Essenes, and I don't have the year because I'm bad with the years, but you look up the Essenes. There's a lot of talk about these women called the Marys that were practicing parthenogenesis.
Okay.
Divine birth, right? And if you know the story is the Immaculate Conception.
Right.
And then if you tie in the Christos, the Pleroma is Galactic Center. And then we talked about a lot of civilizations that have star stories, you know, origins of where we come from. They all point, like the Aztecs, right? They say, oh, the Shibaba is where we come from. The great teachers come from here. The wise divine ones come from here to show us the way. Shibaba is the crossing, which is in the Galactic Center, the Dark Rift. So pretty much it's everything points to this Galactic Center point as the place where divine souls, the divine teachers come from.
Yeah.
So this is where the Christos comes from. And the man Jesus, which is what we all know now, is the one who embodied Christos energy and then shares it with humanity. Yeah. And of course gets crucified and puts on a cross.
Right.
The crossing.
Yes. So just for everyone listening, so we're talking about the association between the Galactic Center, which is where a fucus is. The end of a fucus is the Galactic Center, and the association between that and Christ. We've talked a lot about this on the channel, like the number 13, for example, is, the 13th disciple, so we have it there. We have a fucus as the healer / redeemer. You look at a lot of Christian teachings, it's about redeeming It's all about redemption, redeeming individuals, and that becoming the process of transformation and healing and all this. Not to mention that, of course, it's just the center of the Milky Way, and it's an extremely energetic point in which we could say that it's the birth of our galaxy, at least, in terms of it's kind of our galactic sun there in the middle. So there's a lot of associations there, but we're basically drawing that link between Ophiuchus, the Redeemer, and Christ, and that same energy. Right. So I'm curious because, for me, I'm always looking at things from symmetry. And, I was saying earlier about how Pisces is usually associated with Christ energy. Like, let's say we weren't 13 sign astrologers, we were tropical astrologers. I mean, we would be talking about Christ from the Pisces perspective, right? Because Pisces is very much about compassion, unconditional acceptance. It's definitely more of the Christian, along with Buddhism and every other heart-centered and accepting, philosophy or religion. But, Christianity is definitely there with the Pisces, the fish, with the fish symbolism and everything. Not to mention that Christ came out from the age of Pisces, and we can go down that rabbit hole in terms of how we entered the age of Pisces, literally when, just a little bit before Christ. But anyways, how does Ophiuchus fit in here? I know it's a wild question, but I can see the association between Pisces and Virgo because, you've got that Mother Mary opposite the sun and, that interchange. Jesus was a carpenter, and that's the Virgo energy, so you see the opposition there. Any thoughts, or have you had any perspectives on how symmetrically Ophiuchus ties in with Virgo? I mean, it's a sextile from an astrological association. Well,
there's that story. I made a video. It's on my YouTube channel under live videos. It was called The Throne of Divinity, and it's actually a presentation that I gave in the Netherlands, and it was tying that in. It was tying pretty much. I'm sure people watch the movie Zeitgeist, where they say on the 21st, which is the solstice, the darkest time, the sun is said to die, and then on the 25th, it's said to be reborn, which is why you have the 3 days of resurrection. But if you look at it from an astronomical point of view, because of precession, 2,000, 3,000 years earlier, the sun wouldn't, on the winter solstice, wouldn't be said to be dying inside of the galactic center. So right now, during our epoch, during the age of Pisces, our sun, right, sun, S-O-N, S-U-N, is dying in the galactic center.
Yes.
Right? Because that's where the sun is.
Yeah. The summer solstice point is right at the beginning of Sagittarius right now, yes.
Exactly. So that story is there, right? Then he's reborn again, of course, on the 25th, Christ Mass, right? So I'm looking at the names. So I'm saying, okay, there's got to be a connection here because if this was 3,000 years ago, the sun wouldn't be dying and resurrecting. It's dying and resurrecting in the galactic center. So the Son of God in the primordial, the pleroma, which is the throne of divinity, literally, we got to witness our, the Son, the divine child dying and resurrecting in his exact place of birth. This is the galactic center. So then I looked at the words and I said, let me break down these words, because then there's that story where the three kings follow the brightest star to the east to find the birth of the sun. Well, like if you watch that Zeitgeist movie, those three stars, which are the three kings, are actually Orion's belt. So you follow Orion's belt, and you can look this up with Stellarium. Follow the belt of Orion, it leads you to the brightest star, which is Sirius. In Egypt, Sirius is directly connected to Mary. You literally have, because Sirius is Isis. So you literally have the image of Isis holding Horus on her lap, and then people put Virgin Mary holding Jesus on her lap. And they say, this is the same story. So if you tie that story, the three kings follow the bright star to the east to find the birth of the sun on the 25th. Well, when you do that on the winter solstice, following Christmas, follow those three bright stars, find Sirius, and right where Sirius rises on the 25th, the sun will rise there.
Really?
So that's how you find the birth of the sun. Yeah. And
Wow.
then you look at the name Mary Christmas. So I broke the name down. So the name that they gave Mary, or the star Isis, is Marie, the bright shining guiding light, the bright shining guiding star, Marie, or Mary, Mary, Christos, and then Mas, within quantity. So Merry Christmas is actually Mary guiding you to the galactic center to receive in quantity the energy of this galactic center.
Wow.
Son of God, child of God. Yeah.
I always knew about the association between the winter solstice and the sun, as Zeitgeist pointed out there. But I had no idea there about the link there with Sirius. I mean, it's interesting too that the three kings are opposite the galactic center, because Orion's opposite of Fucus. So that's the opposition point too as well. And where they would always be looking would actually be, if you think about it, where's Orion looking? Orion is looking at the galactic center, right? Yeah. So you could say a Fucus is looking at Orion, and Orion's looking at a Fucus. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, so, these are the pillars they call them the pillars of man, which a lot of people say that's Gemini, because the symbol of Gemini is two pillars. But that's actually that's you can play around with that. But I think it's the two masculine figures holding us as pillars.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about Orion, I mean, Orion is totally the mix between Taurus and Gemini, right? Because you have Orion's the hunter, right? The man, the human, the man and the human, right? And so you've got the Taurus, which is the earthly side, right? Very grounded, very primal man. And then you got Gemini, which is the rational, right? It's the rational mind. What's a human? It's a rational animal, right? It's a rational physical. Like if we're purely in the world of modern day science, where we're not thinking of spirituality at all, which is that side of the sky, that's Orion, right? The purely physical human. What is a human in its purely physical form? It's a rational animal, right? So that Taurus-Gemini combination is totally what Orion is all about. And can say the same thing about the Scorpio-Sagittarius, right? I mean, that's why so many people associate a Fucus with the wisdom and the knowledge of Sagittarius, as it's the combination between the Scorpio depth and truth and the wisdom of Sag, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and that's another part of the story I read. That's what made me the Virgo Fucus connection. There's literally a lot of biblical texts that say the seed of the woman steps on the head of the serpent and gets stung on the ankle.
Well, that would be the Ophiuchus woman.
That's a Fucus, yeah.
Because I mean, and then if you want to, apply masculine and feminine, then I mean, Ophiuchus is definitely feminine energy, right? Because it's water. Yeah. And Orion is masculine energy for sure. So the serpent bearer, I think, is feminine, right? At least in its physical form. I mean, you can play around with that too, because I notice there's always this parallel, like as within, so without. But then things seem to be inverted sometimes. Like something that's like a female deity, something that's female in the sky, takes on a masculine form on Earth, and something that's like something that's like a feminine form on Earth takes on a masculine archetype kind of in the higher realm. So we see that kind of interchange there. But
yeah, I never noticed that. Yeah, a lot of people relate Ophiuchus to feminine energy, and I'm just like, I can understand it, because it's like more receptive, healing energy.
Yeah, the water.
But a lot of times you read about it, it's usually a masculine figure, like Asclepius is supposed to be related.
As most are, and but also the idea that if you're factoring in Christ, I mean, Christ was obviously masculine there. But anyways, there's a lot of associations. What was the other thing I was thinking of too? Yeah, this Spica, so we have we have those four main brightest stars in the sky, right? And it's the fixed stars. And then you've got mutable energy, right? And Virgo would be part of the mutable. Sagittarius would be part of the mutable. But that means that there's definitely a square between the galactic center and some part of Virgo. And I'm now very curious to see how close that is to Spica, actually. Because, once you start factoring in the modalities, the crosses, like the four brightest stars in the sky, the Leo, Aquarius, the Taurus, the Scorpio. Well, now you have an association between Virgo and potentially a Fucus. I mean, for sure, a part of a Fucus squares Virgo. I just don't know what part. I mean, I could pull it up real quick. I have to open
Interesting. I wonder, because Galactic center is supposed to mark right where SGRA star is, Sagittarius A star, which is a pulsar.
Well, that's in the center of the Milky Way.
Yeah. That's
but I wonder what exactly squares that, right? What's the modality of that? It's got to be somewhere in Virgo.
I don't know. Let me.
I'm gonna pull up Prometheus now and take a look.
Oh, you're pulling it up? Yeah.
It's probably not Spica. Yeah. Spica is going to be in Sagittarius, I'm pretty sure. But maybe it's the head of. I mean, it must be somewhere in the head of Virgo somewhere.
Because Spica is supposed to be the seed of the woman. So,
that would make a lot of sense. Yeah. But I want to see what that symmetry is.
Yeah, she's holding the weed that's supposed to be Spica.
Okay, so here we go. So thank you, Julie. So Julie says that the galactic center squares the cusp, right there on the cusp between Leo and Virgo. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, interesting. Because Leo is like the royal sign, the king.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost exact. I mean, so you can't see this, but I'm pointing to, for the audience, I'm pointing to galactic center here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees from the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's exactly 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Well, according to the midpoint system, our system, it's exactly 4.5. But let's just say between 4 and 5 degrees of Virgo. So it is in the head of Virgo. It's like 4 or 5 degrees right inside Virgo.
Yeah.
So I gotta check what star that is, because there's a star there.
Yeah. That sounds interesting.
Anyways, I get all excited about the symmetry of things. I always try to find those connections. Yeah. Well, very cool. Yeah. So there's that. So what is Notre Dame? So it's the way that they built the city to align to Virgo. Is that right?
Yeah, but basically all the temples that are spread out. That's what makes it magnificent. I mean, I've experienced. You go to Egypt and they're like, okay, this is aligned with Sirius rising on this date, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but this is what I'm saying. This is I believe this is a archaeoastronomy marvel, because this is spread out all through Europe. This is not just one cathedral aligned to. So this is all of Europe spread out. You have all these cathedrals. And where they're placed, if you take the Virgo constellation, put it on top, they match each other. They mirror each other. That's an archaeoastronomy marvel.
So, but is there documentation that this was intentional?
Well, that's why I'm going.
Okay, I would love to.
Because I'm saying, hold on.
If it's there, literally. I mean, it sounds like there was an intention.
It was one more image I want to show you, because I mean it's like in our face. This is in one of the cathedrals. It literally says Virgo Fidelis.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The loyal virgin. And then
she's standing on a serpent. Look at that.
It breaks down to regenerate. I think it says it was conception without sin. Which is parthenogenesis. That's what we were talking about. And this is Virgo. This is Mary, Virgo.
And that's Virgo the image you were saying of her standing on the serpent?
And a serpent, yeah. She's standing on a serpent.
I mean, every time I see someone standing on a serpent, I'm thinking a Fucus.
Right. Yeah. He's the seed of her. So, I mean, right. So that's my thing. It's like you have it says Virgo, and if you go to the cathedrals, you see images of them. They have zodiac wheels all over. The clocks have zodiac wheels.
I mean, I'm convinced. I just think it would be really cool if we can find some documentation of it stating that.
Yeah, like
because Nostradamus isn't that old. It's not like we're trying to find documentation of the pyramids or something, right? Like there should be something there. Hopefully.
You'll come across. Well, here's one more thing. Let me share. There's this book I read that years ago, and this is why I'm like, okay, well, I dropped the ball years ago, or maybe not. But this book here, Secret Architecture of Our Nation's Capital. These are my Kindle notes. And this is how the Freemasons came from. They rooted the origins of Freemasonry is actually Egyptian temple building. Then they aligned Washington D.C. and have a lot of Virgo alignments with Washington D.C. as well.
We were talking about that.
And this is what this book talks about.
Interesting.
So I went to Washington D.C. to check this out, and there was a lot of Virgo imagery all over Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an archaeoastronomy marvel that is in front of our faces. It has Virgo symbolism. It literally says the name for Mary is our Lady, our guiding star, our guiding lady. Stella Maris, you heard that, right? Stella Maris, the guiding Mary, the star, Isis, Sirius. So you have this. Religions are in control of it. They're maintaining it. These are marvelous cathedrals aligned to a primordial feminine woman. That is the mother, primordial mother.
Yeah. And, just for those that may not know, Virgo is significant in that it is right on the cusp of the descendant. Like, as in, if you take Aries to be the first sign, and, I'll just show him Prometheus. So if you take, well, it actually won't show that well because it's uneven, but, if you take all 13 signs, right, but if you know that Aries starts the zodiac, and Libra starts the second half. So if you set the zodiac to the horizon, then you have the rising is Aries, right, or the beginning of the zodiac, the eastern horizon, the beginning of the zodiac, and then the setting is Libra. So Libra comes after Virgo, which means that Virgo is the last constellation before something rises in the west. Now, of course, things set in the west. I get that.
Yeah.
But the point is that she's the end of the first half of the zodiac, right? The same way Pisces is the end of the whole zodiac, but you could say Pisces is the end of the second half of the zodiac, right? So everyone, my point here is everyone knows the significance of Pisces and Aries, right? Like when we're trying to figure out why is Virgo so revered and everything. There's a million reasons out there, but my mind goes straight to symmetry. Like so where does Virgo sit on the astronomical wheel that's so significant? And the most significant thing I can think of is that, she is the end of the descendant, or the energy right before the descendant, right? Or literally the descendant if you relate it to the Virgo Pisces, Virgo Libra cusp. So very significant there. And once we start to get into what were we talking about last time? Years ago was clockwise house systems, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna kind of figure out. Yeah.
So with the normal house systems, in terms of how we use motion, that's where the planets will be rising in the east, right, and setting in the west. But if you use clockwise, or another way of actually saying that is if you don't use the spinning of the Earth and you only use the zodiac, because it's the spinning of the Earth that creates the setting and rising. That's from our perception. So this is from the earthy perspective. So like I was saying, there's an opposite between the as within, so without. So I see that you said mirroring earlier. That's how I see mirroring. It's like one thing is yang here, it's yin over there. It's like a mirror, right?
Yeah.
So what you're seeing in the stars is a reflection of what's going on within, right? But that means that whatever you're seeing is going on, let's say whatever's rising in the sky is actually setting within.
Right. Yeah.
And what is actually setting without is rising within. My point here is that if you use a clockwise house system, Pisces becomes what's rising, or the birth of the sun, as you were saying earlier, the birth of Christ. Mm-hmm. And what is Virgo?
Descent.
Well, no, the rising. So. Oh. I'm sorry. So from the other way around, right? So if you're looking at it from the other side, so so in this case, the first, if you were doing counterclockwise, the sun would be, rising in Pisces, as that's the rising of the sun, and then, like you said, setting there. But if you invert it, then it's going to be rising from Virgo and setting in Pisces. Right. So just some food for thought, just some things to
the descent into material. That's the birth, when you become a solid. Wow.
But in the physical, right? Because then in the spiritual, it then tends to be the opposite, right? Which is why we have those oppositions.
Yeah.
Anyways,
this makes sense. Why, again, and then they ask, why do we do what we do? We're trying to figure out the truth of how powerful is astrology, and what lengths they go through to hide it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, if you knew the true power of astrology, there's something, you see it, because literally you have mega cathedrals aligned to a zodiac sign. Everywhere. But they're not saying it. So literally, that's the cliche saying, right? You just hide it in plain sight.
Yeah.
And allow a lot of people to visit it, and don't say anything about it. And they'll say, well, they don't say anything about it, so it must not be true. That's a conspiracy.
And why, if you were going to build a building, why wouldn't you align it to the stars, right? Like, think about it. You're thinking about, like, where you're going to put this thing, how you're going to build it. I mean, I'm convinced that probably every church, every major building, any building that had someone put a lot of thought and attention into it, probably used the stars in the sky in its design, right?
Yeah.
And just because we don't have documentation or evidence of, no one stating it or writing it down on the architectural paperwork, doesn't mean that wasn't the case. But time and time again, we see all these buildings lining up to stars, and we're just figuring it out now, because, we're now retroactively looking and being like, oh crap, like that actually aligns, right? Like, for hundreds of years, no one even thought about it. Now we have the technology to see it.
Yeah. I call this, we have the sidereal eyes, because we see how true alignment actually is working with the basic astrology reading. And then in the tropical reading, it's not aligned with the stars, so you're not feeling the magnificent awe of aligning with cosmic energy. When you do sidereal, you really do. I mean, a lot of people following right now will probably say, sidereal readings make it like cosmic, It's like, so these temples are aligned to that, and then we are seeing it because we realize things. We can see now. We can see Virgo. Well, why Virgo? I mean, literally, you walk into these cathedrals, you see the symbol of Virgo, you dig a little deeper, and they'll say Notre Dame. Well, that's My Lady. That's the name of the Virgin Mary. Okay, what about this? They're all called Notre Dames. All of the cathedrals are Notre Dame. Notre Dame here, Notre Dame Reims. And it's like, all right, well, let's look a little deeper, and you see, oh, wow. And it makes sense logically, because these things have to be maintained for, I would guess, thousands of years, right? So what is the best timekeeper or library is the stars. Literally, the zodiac is a story in the stars that we can follow. Right?
Yeah, and it's, leave the city, and at night, I mean, if you're spiritual at all, if you have any kind of spiritual inclination and any religious, perspective whatsoever, you're looking at the stars, right? You're looking at the heavens, right? You're using the heavens. So if you're building anything even remotely spiritual or meaningful, it's gonna use the stars.
Yeah, ask anyone where is God? They're gonna point up to heaven. Where's heaven? Up. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Everything's in the stars.
Yeah.
They don't point to the ground when you ask for where is God from. They don't go, oh, he's from under here. Oh, he's in there.
Yeah.
God's from the stars.
So I'm going through the chat now. Let me just see if there's any questions. If you have any questions for Ike before we conclude here, go ahead and shoot them in the chat here. Let me just, I don't know if we have any, but let me just read some of these here.
I don't see anything. Let me see. In this chat here.
So Aya's asking if we'll ever have a relocation chart on the website. I mean, that's really difficult. I'll tell you what, Aya, though, is we don't need to, because relocation charts are, well, at least if you're asking from astrocartography, I'm assuming you're asking like astrocartography chart, the one that shows all the lines. This is not zodiac specific. So in other words, it really doesn't matter whether it's true sidereal or tropical. All astrocartography charts are the same. So when you go to look at the ley lines of the planets on that map, there's really no difference between the tropical and true sidereal. They're exactly the same. And that's because with the astrocartography, we're only concerned with the houses really, which is the location of the planets relative to the four angles, the rising, the setting, the ascendant, the midheaven. But anyways, long story short, you can look at any relocation chart online. We don't need one on the website because it's the same as everywhere else. And there's at least a few sources out there for relocation chart calculators. Now, if you're asking about actual relocated charts where you type in, like you want to see the actual chart, then obviously the actual chart itself would be different. But for that, you just know that you can always just type in the time conversion of when you were born. So for example, if you were born in New York, but you want to see what your chart looks like in LA or somewhere on the West Coast, then all you got to do is type in LA and then use the 3 hours time difference. So all you got to do for a relocated chart is just basically make it like as if you were born at that location at that exact moment of time. So if you were born at 3 p.m. in New York, then that exact moment would be 12 p.m. in Los Angeles. And so you just type in, if your actual birthday was 3 p.m. New York, you would type in 12 p.m. LA, and that's your relocated chart. So I know it's a little bit of, because you have to figure out what the time zone difference is, but if you just figure out the time zone difference, you can get the relocated chart just by typing in the new location and then whatever that time zone change was. Christine, okay, so Christine, yeah, code 12. Aquarius sky clock, the star maps of Gwynedd covers the entire northwest quarter of Wales. Check out Hugh Evans. He breaks down the entire zodiac. Do you know Hugh Evans, Ike, or this Gwynedd?
No, but that's something, if we have time, we're going to check out. There's something called the British zodiac. I think Sir Francis Bacon did a whole thing on that. And there's actually a town dedicated to Fucus.
Right.
It's called Royston. The Royston Caves.
Hmm.
So that's...
Sorry, where's that? That's in Ireland?
That's in England. It's
in
near
England.
London.
Near London.
And they say that London is actually the galactic center. That's a portal. That's why London is a city, and it's kind of like... It's supposed to be this open portal for this transfer between the galactic center and here.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. If we have time, we're going to go there too. We're going to check this out, man.
Awesome.
But Royston is an interesting, I want to check that city out because they have the Royston Caves, and apparently there's a imagery with a man holding serpents in his hands.
Right. Are you guys going to film document this? Is this something you're just doing with your partner? Or something you're doing?
Yeah, we're gonna do like a virtual tour thing. We'll allow people to sign up with us, and I can get you that link if you want. But yeah, we're gonna be like what we did in Egypt. We make a video every time we walk through a temple, and we make like several videos, and then we upload them, and they're basically there with us.
Oh wow, like a live stream
video. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know when it gets close. I'll send it on the newsletter, and then people can sign up for that. Okay.
Yeah. We're doing that.
Amanda says, I've missed Ike's monthly reports. Where's your monthly report, Ike?
Oh, I do them on the Facebook group.
Okay.
Sidereal Revolution. You gotta go.
Oh, maybe she means she missed them. Like, I thought you stopped doing them. Okay, so I think she means she just hasn't seen them. Okay.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but
Because I
it
was
just
doing them on YouTube a lot, but I'm mainly focused on the group. The group is pretty strong, so
so this is
doing
sidereal
live streams.
revolution, yeah.
Yeah, Sidereal Revolution
Yeah.
on
So for
Facebook.
those that don't
Very nice.
know, Ike's group is Sidereal Revolution on Facebook. Margaret, if you could post a link to that one. Great group, very active. Very nice to have a place where people in the
Yeah,
community can come together like that.
yeah. I did a nice video last for the Ophiuchus full moon. Uh,
Oh
that was
yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah, I had a good time. Ophiuchus full moon was fine.
nice. So
Yeah,
John the Baptist and Jesus were Essenes. Okay, so Essenes
yeah. The Essenes,
or
yeah.
Essenes,
I've come
sorry.
across that.
Essenes are also
Yeah,
known for initiation with the Aquarian baptism, says Aquarius Sky Clock. All right,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm new to the whole part because I grew up scared of religion. I grew up scared of all that Jesus, Mary stuff. But I'm seeing that this is, I mean, there's a lot of astrology in the Bible. We spoke about that. There's so much there. They say that
Mm-hmm.
the Bible is an astrology book.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, if astrology is evil, why do we still have zodiac signs in these cathedrals?
I think what like the Christian Bible is saying that's evil is divinity, which is different. You have to
Oh
understand
yeah,
that the difference between
divination. Yeah,
divination,
right,
yeah, I mean divination, yeah.
right,
You gotta understand the difference between divination and looking at the stars. So divination
right.
means you're trying to predict your future, and I
To
always,
outrun your fate, kind of.
yeah, like
Yeah,
predict, like basically playing God, right? That's why it's
right, right.
evil. It's like you're playing God. You're trying to look, you're trying to saying that you can foretell someone's future, and especially if you're using it for like making money or something like a lot of these old psychics and
Yeah,
stuff would do. So that that is what the Bible is criticized. I firmly believe it because if you look at, like you said, most of the Bible, it's astronomical, and
yeah,
obviously it's not evil when the Bible itself is doing it using the
yeah,
stars as markers. And if you use
yeah, yeah.
astrology for this as a marker, I think
Right.
that's the good. But of course, just like everything
Yeah.
else, there is, you know,
So it got abused. What is that name they
yeah,
call? Soothsayers.
right, that kind of stuff.
Soothsayers.
So Renegade makes a good point. So if you just do basic math and go numerically across the zodiac, obviously you will end at 13 on Pisces, right? So if you, in this case, because we kind of add a fucus at the end to be
Yeah,
13,
right.
but obviously a
Oh,
fucus would be 9, and then
right.
Sagittarius would be
I've
10.
heard that before. Yeah, I've heard people say that it still ends up at 13. Oh, that's really interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, because that's the whole Last Supper thing, right? There's actually
Hmm.
13 people in the image, 12 disciples,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, Julie makes a good point that right now the South Node is squaring up to the Galactic Center because we have the South Node switching from Virgo to Leo right now.
oh wow, wow, wow,
And I wanted to
interesting.
mention too, just because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was like really excited when I heard it. So you're talking about how the Galactic Center is not during the winter solstice yet, right? But we are moving towards that, and I think I forgot the math. I think it's something like a few hundred years. I think it's like we're pretty close though, like from a processional sense, from the ages sense, like we're really close to
Mhm.
having the winter solstice literally on the Galactic Center. And
Oh, like on SGR star. Yeah, I haven't looked at that. I know it's in the rift. It's been in the rift since that was the whole story of 2012. Like the rift is that dark
oh, okay.
with so it's like in there, but I haven't looked to see exactly that star. And it could be like you said, like a few hundred years, which
It's
is
not
like
our lifetime because I remember looking at it and I was like, all right, that's still a ways away. I
oh really?
think it's
Okay.
just it's not our lifetime. It's some hundreds of years, but I don't think it's that many.
Yeah.
I think it's like just a couple generations away. But that's going to be very it's going to be very
Wow.
interesting. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not like one to predict things in a tangible sense.
Yeah.
But if I was going to say there's any significant time in history, it would be when the Galactic Center is linked up with the vernal points or the
Yeah, right,
equinox
right,
points,
right, right,
right?
right.
So, but
Yeah.
especially
Yeah. So
that
maybe
winter
that's what the
solstice.
yeah, I mean, that was the story of 2012. You remember? It was supposed to be this awakening thing. And I think one of my first Fucus videos many years ago, I did on that. I tied it into what we were seeing called the photon belt. The photon belt is interesting. I don't know if you remember this. Did we have this conversation? I can't remember, but the photon belt is supposed to be a belt of light energy.
Right.
And directly opposite or within that photon belt is supposed to be the Pleiades. Which is why, if you notice, if you look at the Pleiades from where we are, they look kind of wispy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because within the photon belt, it's supposed to be highly charged magnetic particles and dust, and so they're supposed to be inside of this photon belt. And it said that in 2012.
Sorry, right? Go. No, go.
Yeah, on 2012, because of precession, at 2012, and this is the 13 Baktun calendar thing,
right,
the end of the year. 2012, it was supposed to be the beginning of our journey through this photon belt. So it's like a donut. So
it's circular around the whole sky, because the Pleiades is opposite the galactic center. Is the galactic center part of that photon belt? That's what you mean, the photon belt,
Pleiades,
right?
Yeah. So it's supposed to be saying like we're looking at the Pleiades through the belt, which is why the Pleiades look wispy.
Oh, right.
So if you notice, like, if you're looking at Pleiades, it looks wispy, and they say that's because you're looking through the belt. You look a little bit to the left or to the right of that, none of the clouds are wispy, only Pleiades, because they say Pleiades, from our perception, are in that belt.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. And that's supposed to mark this 2012 kind of thing.
And from the Pleiades perspective, where are we? We're in the galactic center.
Oh, they're probably looking at us like, okay, yeah. And that's the whole thing. If you look online, like the whole Pleiadian messengers and all this stuff, that's a pretty big deal. It's like, I mean, there's some really trippy people, like, galactic ambassadors and all that stuff. I can't get on board with that. But there is intuitive messages.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah, very symbolic as well. All right, cool. So let me just see here. Write your own documentation, Ike. Write some documentation. I think that was in reference to some of the Notre Dame stuff.
Yeah, I think at some point I gotta slow down and I gotta write.
So Amanda's saying her mom was still a virgin technically when I was born, says Amanda.
Oh wow.
So.
Oh wow. So her mom is a parthenogenesis. Hi. Really interesting.
I'm not sure. Yeah, but that's what Amanda says here.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they're saying. Literally, conception with the gods.
He says, I'm a Virgo in Eastern astrology, Libra in Western, Virgo. Okay. A question for Ike. Where is the British Zodiac pub in England? In which town?
Where is it what?
The British Zodiac pub? There's a pub?
Oh, it's, I mean, it's supposed to be mounds all over. You can just look up the British Zodiac. But I think what that person is referring to is the one that's related to the 13th sign is Royston.
But that's a town. That's a town.
It's a town, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
And I think we have a mutual student, maybe. I forgot her name. Frances, I think. Frances Zemet. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but she's the one that told me about this British Zodiac, and I looked it up. And so I gotta check that out because apparently there's mounds and there's imagery there, and so.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and conclude here. Yeah, Nova makes a good point. Just so it's clear about divination. So you can use even tarot and stuff. Obviously, I think in healthy ways. And Nova is saying that some would say you're using your inner voice or your inner guidance, right? Which would be a very different way of using tarot than how it's been used, in the past. All right. Let's see. Do you have astrocartography in the readings as well? Yep, we both do. You can do astrocartographies as well, right? Like.
Not much. I can. I do it once in a while. I just don't feel sparky with it. I don't feel like.
Yeah.
It doesn't like.
Okay.
I'm not like when I do regular readings. I just feel like I'm guided by some higher thing, and I'm reading. Astrocartography. I'm like.
It's quite stale. But anyways, I do it. Anna Maria does it. So Margaret, if you could put a link to Anna Maria's discount link if you want their Renegade, we're happy to do the astrocartography. And put a link to Ike's, oh, did we already? Oh, there it is. Yeah, Sidereal Revolution. Thanks, Margaret. So and everyone check out Ike there at his Facebook group. And what's your website? TrueSiderealAstrologist.com?
Sidereal Astrologist.
Or just Sidereal Astrologist. Just SiderealAstrologist.com.
SiderealAstrologist.com, yeah.
Awesome.
And I think it's like that on YouTube as well. So yeah, you can check that out.
All right, last question. Until when will we be going through this photon belt? Do you know the answer to that? Like, what's the orb? What's the orb of this thing? How long will we be going through this photon belt? If we entered the photon belt in 2012, how long?
Yeah. I think it's, I'm not mistaken, it's 100,000 light years wide. So I think we're kind of...
how fast are we moving?
That's a good number. Just look up photon belt. You'll find it. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Like, it's interesting because, you know, it shows up on like the Ascension Dictionary or Glossary or whatever. But I looked it up. I like to compare stuff with NASA and what NASA says. And NASA does confirm something. They say we're moving through a dusty part of space that we didn't know existed, and it's actually heating up the solar system. It's highly charged magnetic particles of dust, and it's about 100,000 light years wide, and it's a cloud. So here's NASA kind of admitting it, saying, well, we didn't know it existed. But then you look at like stuff like the Ascension Glossary, and it's always been yeah, like the ancients have been writing about this for a long time. It's like the 13 bucks in calendar. Like it's nothing to us. We know this. So that's kind of what I like to chase these little stories. Like
no, NASA's great for objective things, but they always dumb it down in a way that they're like, oh, that no, this is different from your woo-woo thing. This is more like something else, right? But but it's funny, over time you realize how much we're just rediscovering what we've already known for thousands, tens of hundreds of thousands of years.
It's like the Virgo cathedrals. It's like how many people watching this are like, wait a second, what do you mean the Notre Dame cathedrals are aligned with the Virgo constellation? How come we don't know that? It's like,
I was shocked. I'm surprised that I'm not. I'm not surprised in that. If you would have told me it's linked to the stars, I'd be like, well, of course it is, right? I mean, it's a spiritual, symbolic building, so of course it is. But never heard of it linked to Virgo. That's definitely news to my ears.
Yeah, and that's my thing. It's like, at what lengths are they going to prevent us from realizing this, from keeping us from accessing why, these alignments? Like, like simple, hide it in plain sight. No one will.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Ike. Well, it's great connecting with you. Let's stay in touch. Let everyone, let me know once you get that video, meetup set up. I'll blast it out to the newsletter, and we'll keep connecting with things like this in the future. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're ever evolving, man. I'll see you soon. All right, man. All right. Thanks, Ike. Thank you, everybody. See you all next week. Okay. Have a good week. Bye, everyone. Okay.